please don't forget the money, man.
I love America, but she's so dangerous, dangerous. I love America, but she's so dangerous. Somebody call her Superman, I am made of kryptonite. No bulls say it's child time, what we about to eat tonight. What happened on Epstein Island, did it really take it life? I'm deeper than the ocean floor and higher than a satellite. Yes, I am an alchemist, I murder rubble salesman. Walk with no religion, it's the return of the ancient Egyptians. West Coast, California, my family is Riverside. In the Empire, none of us ain't a lullaby. This is where the gods dwell and a lot of mothers cry. You can feel the thunder cry. Choctaw Nation, future chief on the rise. From a different dimension, Star Trek Enterprise. I love America, but she's so dangerous, dangerous. I love America, but she's so dangerous, dangerous. Often they jewels around my neck, dripping like King Tut. Pop locking on the pyramids, Scotty beat me up. I'm manifested as a god, I in my hieroglyphs. Yes, I am so cold, I can swim in a lava pit. My father who art in heaven, returning in the mothership. Dropping missiles and bombs, sinking the devil's battleship. Roswell crashes, UFO flying saucers. I'm the rap Captain EO, call me the Sunwalker. I'm the rap Captain EO, call me the Sunwalker. I love America, but she's so dangerous, dangerous. I love America, but she's so dangerous. Rocking with Jason Elm Street. Peace to the God. Peace to the God. I love America, but she's so dangerous, dangerous. I love America, but she's so dangerous. You all aboard! It is time to hop aboard my spaceship, 'cause you are now tuned into what is the Matrix TV. I'm your host, Jason Elm Street Williams, raining down from the Nile, Riverside, California. And let's get into it today. Shadeur Sanders in the racist NFL draft. But first, let me introduce my special guest. He is the owner and founder. Matter of fact, he's his own chief. He has his own Indian reservation, Brother Gene Valdez. How you doing, King?
Hey, how you doing, Jason?
Doing good. And we got our brother Larry June. How you doing, Brother Larry Davis?
I'm doing good.
So, Brother Gene, before we get started, give us a brief introduction about yourself and your reservation and what your organization represents and what you got going on as we start this with this brother Black Indian, this great Moor, Shadeur Sanders, and you as a Black Seminole.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me. This is great. This is a great platform, and you're the only one talking about it. Yeah, Gene Valdez. I own pretty much a whole city block in Colton, but I've turned it into a Black Seminole reservation. As you know, it's a large space, but I'm focusing on the unrecognized tribes. California actually has the largest amount of Native Americans in the nation. Most people don't realize that. They think it's South. No, California, largest amount of Native Americans. So when you talk about blood quantum versus the one drop rule, Native Americans are the marry 65% outside of their race. So they're shrinking. They're actually reduced in size. They're doing disenrollment on the tribes to keep the casino men. But if you go with the one drop rule, we're actually taking over California. Black Seminoles Black Native Americans. I don't know how many of you have actually seen the movie Sinners. Great movie. I want to see it at least 3-4 times. Starts off, hey, we're chased by slaves. Are you sure it wasn't Choctaw Indian? We have been here. And now that it's coming up front, and we got to thank Assembly Member Alex James Ramos. In California, he's Native American, but he's looking to incorporate Native Americans in California and how history has affected us in California specifically. Black Seminoles are the fastest, largest, most powerful, unrecognized tribe in the state. And
So
we're looking for recognition, not
okay.
reparations. And once
And when
this
you
happens, we're
and,
taking over California.
and speak on that recognition, not just restitutions and reparations. Speak to the audience about that. Earlier,
What a
like,
lot of people don't and people, what do they call? What are the kids? Because they YK. What if you know, you know. We weren't all slaves. We were not all descendants from the slaves. Matter of fact, it's mathematically impossible that we all could have came here on a slave ship.
Precisely.
People like me, descendants of John Horse, who had led the biggest slave rebellion or exodus, and Black Indian exodus to Mexico. We were never slaves. We were born freemen. You know, this is history. But in California, now that this bill is passed and it needs to be taught in schools, they didn't take into consideration the fastest growing Native American population is actually Black Seminole. And for those of you who don't know, the word Seminole is not even an Indian name. It actually means somebody without a tribe, somebody who lived off the wild, out in the wild. Was it just we never got a Black Seminole reservation because we were never conquered. We're the unconquered people, but we've been around forever. So now on the West Coast, knowing that we're actually here and we're willing to be recognized, the city of Colton has said, hey, we're recognizing Black Seminoles because they see where things are going. They can see that, you know what, at some point, Native Americans don't just look like what you see on TV, and thanks to the movie Sinners now, maybe people, well, what did he mean by that? You know, yeah, we were here. So we're looking to bring light to California, but also it's about the land. If you own land and you adopt other people into your tribe, we could all be Black Seminoles, run the state, which is the 4th largest economy in the world. That's the tribe. So I'm hoping that it starts with the education, it starts with the land use, but it also starts with us realizing that, you know what, nobody, it's possession and position. If you have something and you don't have to give it up, you're not giving it up. There is not, you hear it here first. We're not all getting checks. We're all not getting reparations.
Right.
Look at the recognition. California, we take over this state, guess what? That's good enough for me.
So can you go on, before we start even going with Brother Shadeur, Brother Larry, do you have any input as we start going in? Or did you want to go in when we go in with Shadeur?
Oh yeah, like adding on to what Shadeur said, like oh wait, no wait. I mean what Valdez said, like yeah. Seminoles have been around for like forever. The first ever instances, ever since from Florida to Georgia, all the way to Carolinas. Like we've been here for like forever. Even yeah, like what he said, like most black people who come from the transatlantic, only 5% been here, and the rest are just down like either down the aisle or more or just more in tune to like southern regions.
I hear it.
So yeah.
No, go ahead. I'm listening.
Yeah, so and then you would tell like how different we would look from either from Brazil all across from the Caribbeans, and some could look more like us, and some could look totally different. But at the end of the day, we still have the same blood.
And you're in Georgia, correct? Were you born
Most
and raised out
definitely.
there?
Yep, most definitely.
So what's your knowledge on the so-called Black Indians? And do you have knowledge of some of the culture of the Black Indians back there in Georgia? And go ahead, because I'm gonna say
Yeah,
something
most definitely.
similar. Go ahead.
Yeah, like, yeah, Georgia is pretty rich with Native American history. It's from
Mm.
the Yamasees, from the what was that other tribe? But
Washita,
yep, was
Muskogee Creek.
yep, Muskogee Creek.
Yeah.
Uh, what was that other one? But also the Yamacross too.
Mm. And you guys, once again, I always go to books. I got this book right here, The Seminole Wars, America's Longest Indian Conflict. Real book. Now check this out.
Black Seminoles were never
Right. Check
defeated. Never defeated.
Most
page 10.
definitely.
Page 10 of the Black Seminole War reads, the most unusual of the numerous groups that made up the Indian population of Florida were not red men, they were black. Once again, in the Seminole War, America's longest Indian conflict, it states the most unusual of numerous groups that made up the Indian population were not red men, they were black.
Glad.
Right
Word
here,
on that.
you see it.
Hell
So right
yeah.
there, you guys see that we've been here. So when it gets into Shadeur Sanders, number 144 as a pick, we have to understand that we are the inventors of math, the inventors of science, the inventors of the rubber ball games. That's why they call the Olmec the rubber ball people, because we invented the rubber ball games. We've been playing football. We've been playing basketball, rugby, soccer, and various games. When the Europeans came here, they found stadiums. That's why they cut off the Negro League, because the way we play the game is different. That's why they had to stop the black quarterbacks in the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, is because we would have taken over. Literally, and a black quarterback stands as a leader. He's not just any position. So putting a so-called black man in a position of power and leadership, it sends a signal to young brothers, the future, not just brothers of that age group. For one, if you ever played football, it's not just smashing your head. To be a quarterback, it's said to be the most intelligent position. Why? It's because you have to memorize a playbook this thick. You have to lead the toughest, baddest men physically that they say on the planet. So you talk about a role of leading men. But when that power can shift of not playing for the NFL and creating our own teams, like Brother Valdez has, he has his own land. So when we have our own land, we build up our own stadiums for our own ball games, and we no longer participate in their leagues, and the rest of the world will break bread to come see us play. That is one of the keys to our wealth. When I was talking to Brother Gene Valdez, he was talking about, you remember with the casinos. So they bring in Kevin Hart to do comedy. They bring in Earth, Wind, and Fire, Ice Cube, Snoop Dogg, all these artists to play in their casinos. Wait till they build a stadium. So what we need to do is have an alliance to where, just like Brother Gene said, if you're recognizing Black Seminoles and Black Indians, You need to help us develop our land. You need to help us build up our stadiums. That's what, for me, I want to use the funding for. Because imagine the NFL without black men playing. Would the rest of the world go to see pale-skinned Europeans play football versus us having our own league? So think about the money that we could make. Because when it comes to football, they make money off of what? The jerseys. They make money off of television. Look at this, y'all. It says, thanks to Shadeur Sanders, day 2 and day 3 of the 2025 NFL draft averaged 7.3 million viewers. So when we talk about 7.3 million viewers on ESPN, the NFL Network, and ABC, that's commercials, y'all. That's why TV was created. First, it was advertising. So they made billions of dollars off of this one brother. So this is why it's important to have our own land and to reclaim our throne. But right here, I wanted y'all to see how they painted the picture of this brother: arrogant, brash, must be humbled. But when it came to the pale-skinned European, he's confident. He's a leader. What do you guys feel about that, Larry, Gene?
Well,
Yeah,
you know,
like that. You
go ahead,
first.
Larry.
Oh well, yeah, like what they said, like that's just crazy. Saying we're arrogant and brash. That's exactly what they're saying. Because if you flip the words around, that's exactly what they're saying. They're arrogant and brash. Just the big thing with what our boy said, like uh
What about you, Gene?
You know, I got to start off. I used to be a coach. I was a youth football coach for my son's team. And when I
Mm.
look, and I'm also a fan of all three of these gentlemen. But when I look at the press conferences and things that they said in the past, Baker Mayfield said, "Well, what did you learn in college? What brought you?" His last statement was, "Don't run from the police," because they got him on video running from the police. They tackled him. It was a big joke. You know, Manziel, that's a whole other issue. But there, it's entertainment. You got to understand. Football is also entertainment. As a coach, I went to different seminars that my son's camp made us go to, and they said, you know what? Football is real simple. Take your best athlete, put him at quarterback, have him
Mm.
every time, and you will win more. Teach him how to throw a little bit too if you want. Guess what? If the NFL went to that model, you would have chaos. What do you mean? Your best, your fastest, your most skilled player, and it would be a different game, and there'd be a lot of people who'd be left out. So I understand the entertainment aspect of it, but I
yeah,
also know what I've seen in the past because I'm a huge football fan. Sometimes what is motivation in the locker room looks one way, and what could be a distraction in the locker room looks another way. And it just so happens most of the people who look like us are the distraction. So you have so and so's daddy coming in trying to give a pep talk or talking to his son on the side, it's perceived a different way. Now you've got the Mannings. That was a great comparison. You got the Mannings. Hey, you know what? Hey, this is what a family looks like. You can't deny it, and the NFL can't deny. I don't think there was a whole lot of plotting that went. You know, I know there's a lot of coincidences and things that we could look at, but head coaches want to win by any means necessary. They do, and I've talked to some. I know some guys in the NFL, and it's about winning, and they don't want to mess up their money.
yep,
So
most definitely.
and
Like that.
you
So
produce.
we no matter what.
They don't. They could. It could be a freaking Russian, South Korean, whatever. If that's gonna make me win, that's what's on the field. What happens in upper management, that's a whole other story. That's a
Mm.
whole other story. So we've got to look at the history of the black quarterback, but we also got to say, hey, you know what? At some point, we got to realize this is entertainment, just like the
Business.
casinos, just like the casinos do. You know, and it's called Jim Crow feather. The most racist people in the nation right now, they're Native Americans. They are actually Native. That Jim Crow feather is just like Jim Crow, but sovereign rights trump civil rights to this day. They say you look, you know what? I'm not sure about his parents, whatever. Let's go ahead and disenroll that whole family. Stop cutting them checks. There's nothing we can do about it. We celebrate Juneteenth right now because the last holdout in Texas was Native Americans who wanted to hold on to their slaves. Tried to tell the federal government that you can't come onto my land because we're separate from you guys. They said, no. We're going to put our foot down. June 19th was the last Native American that gave up their That's what we're dealing with. Jim Crow feather is relevant today.
I hear it. Brother Cosmo, what's good with you?
What's up, man? Came to see you, Star. What it is?
Oh man, we're talking about the Shadeur Sanders incident. Whether it's
Wait, I can't hear you. It's coming in kind of fuzzy, your voice.
Oh, we're talking about the NFL draft and Shadeur Sanders right now. How he was drafted in the 5th round instead of the 1st.
The NFL draft?
What do you feel about Deion Sanders' son being pushed back in the draft? And we're gonna have to remove him. But no, I agree with you, brother. When we do have to get our emotions out of it, when it comes to business, I can honestly see how a perception of grown men having, let's say, Brother Deion coming in, they don't know if it's going to be like college to where he feels entitled of coming in and basically, like they said, disrupting the locker room from what it would normally be. And yeah, bringing in a show when you have Gilly, the kid from Philadelphia with the silly hat whose son just got murdered, you know, involved with crime. And you got Deion with him watching his son's draft. If I'm an NFL owner and I don't like that culture, I definitely would question and be like, man, Deion's over here around a dude who's affiliated with people getting killed, and his son is rocking jewelry and wanting to come out with a rap album and flossing, and he hasn't, you know, I could see now how people would be like, F this could be a liability. This kid could get shot, he could get robbed, his dad might start something in the locker room, you know, so we could look at it as a liability as well when we not even play devil's advocate, looking at it logically. What were you guys feeling on that as we go to the next slide? Do you feel like, for example, y'all, when Eli Manning got drafted, he got drafted by the Chargers, and he barely held up the jersey, and his father made it clear that he was not going to play for the Chargers. He made it clear. And same with Deion. Deion said, if anything, he didn't want his son to get drafted by the Cleveland Browns, and they sent his son, like I said, to a city that gets overlooked.
Yeah.
You know, but Cleveland is 45% so-called Black African American. And I always thought it was just Detroit, Chicago, and cities like that. I didn't know that Cleveland had a 45%, basically almost majority so-called Black population. So hopefully the NFL is strategic to where he could bring life into that city. But also, for me, the Black Indians come up out of Ohio, the Serpent Mound Builders, those brothers and sisters. So we talk about a culture that exists in Ohio that needs resurrecting. And I know that there's Mours and Moors out there. So let's take a picture. trying to go. I don't know why it's messing up, but his wife. If you guys are next to your computer watching this feed, type in Pilar Sanders. That's the mother of Shadeur and Shiloh. When we talk about the divorce, they had their own show. This sister claims her Moorish nationality. She claims her sovereignty. She talks about her and her family being Black Indians, Mours and Moors. So that's why one of the reasons we talk about the divorce, because we know that Brother Dion is a hardcore Christian. Now take this. Still being a hardcore Christian, God-fearing, like she says, he be buck dancing. She says it. You can pull it up on the internet. She says he be buck dancing for God and Jesus for the white man. And they still got at him. Still, you praising God, you still praising Jesus. They still gave you your nigga wake-up call. After you making billions and trillions of dollars for the NFL, they still treated you and your son like a nigga. Because at the end of the day, being pushed to the 5th round, for me, that is a coercion. How do we know? Because this dude accidentally slipped his mouth. Boomer Esiason says NFL owners ordered entitled Shadeur Sanders off their draft board. So just like Brother Gene was saying, the coaches probably were like, F it, let's get him. But
Yeah,
the
like,
higher up,
go.
the owners said, no, we're all, because that is a coercion when none of the teams, not the first round, second, third, fourth, come on.
Well,
And
you know,
go ahead.
No, I get that, but you know, a father tells his son, watch where you walk, son. Son tells the father, watch where you walk, I'm following in your footsteps. And Dion backed off and said, hey, you know what, this is my son's time. I can see how NFL owners don't want that distraction. I can see how coaches, receivers, that this is prime time. He has no choice because his dad is out front and he's walking in them footsteps. Now there could be a lot of calls that were made, this and that, but I'm looking at it as a business, proposition. They also drafted 2 other rookie quarterbacks. They want to let these guys, hey, the cream will rise to the top. And guess what? If he can't throw, he bad in the locker room, can't read the playbook, whatever. They don't care who it is. That's what they're looking at. Now, all this other stuff is a distraction, but it's actually, I'm glad that it all came up because there's somebody else whose dad is not Deion Sanders that's like, yeah, you know what? They do us dirty. And that's who's going to benefit. Shadeur's made a lot of money. He's made a lot of money in these NIL deals and college. Believe me, he's not worried about the money.
Well, I felt they did that as well too. You know,
but he's made his money, but he's also he's walking in these footsteps where maybe sometimes you got to say, hey, Pop, I don't need you, talking on my behalf anymore. I've had that conversation. I've been told that by my son. So I know what it's like to hear that. And sometimes, the magnitude of fall back is hard to wrap your arms around.
Do you feel that's
and that's his mom. He ain't going against his mama. He's not going to go against his mama regardless. That's his mom.
Yeah.
So good luck with that.
Do you guys feel that that's what happened to Brother LeVar Ball, and that's why they got rid of Ball? Melo hasn't been to the Lakers.
No, I think that's just the business of the NBA. You got 5 guys on the court at any given time. You got to win. There ain't no. It's a little different in the NFL because you can, finagle this. Somebody who actually has the same. And the NBA is, you.
But notice, Eugene, I agree with you on that business wise. But do you still notice how whether it was Tiger Woods' father, Venus Williams' father, now the Balls, now Dion, that they're still painted bad? What do you feel that, Larry? what's your input on this particular part of the slides?
I mean, yeah, like sometimes when the Black Father would tell you something, you will often at least listen or at least heed a warning. Cause I know my pops sometimes will tell me something and it would be sometimes either some good advice or maybe some advice that just, you know, you're like, oh hell no. But at the end of the day, he still
You don't have
cares
nothing
for
to
him.
compare it to. Yeah, that's all you.
Exactly.
That's it. That's it. Like the pops. That's it.
I agree. I agree. That's a great way to look at it, y'all. You know, we can't get emotional at certain realities like this too, because we're still under their guard. So like Gene was saying, how would our football leagues play out if what you said existed? And then what type of games do you think we could create when we have our own land? I was watching rollerball with LL Cool J. Imagine if we had our own rollerball ring. You know, I bet you if we started creating our own sports and when we have our own broadcasting networks, the world's going to tune in because we're the gods. We're the cool people. We are the culture. We are the battery to everyone's well. So that's where I'm at, is just that what is the process to where these situations don't occur? But even when we do get the land and build this, we still don't want this in the locker room, you're saying, right? When we have our businesses, we don't want the effery in our businesses, even though it's Moorish, Black, Indian owned. It still needs to be organized, and it still needs to be conducted professionally. It can't be the coon show. But I can imagine our so-called NFLs in the locker rooms with brothers coming in and stunting. Dion would change the whole locker room. Like you said, it would change the whole entire game eventually, and they can't have that. But imagine our leagues, because it would be entertainment. It's entertainment. But they have to control the entertainment. But think about our leagues, like the Harlem Globetrotters. I'm assuming that's how we played basketball back in the day before the pale-skinned European took over basketball and lied and said he created it. Imagine how our basketball leagues used to be, because only a few so-called pale-skinned Europeans can play at that game. That's why they have it so organized and things of that nature. So what do you guys feel about ball games and having our own sport leagues and things of that nature? And what do you feel that would do for us as a people in the world?
Well, you said it. You said it, and let's start with the networks. You can have the best team in the world, the best, but like you said, the networks are actually, that's the hard part. Getting a bunch of players that can play. You know, it's people have tried it and failed, tried it again and failed. If you don't have the viewership, you don't have the network. And by the way, yeah, you need a diverse viewership. It can't just be by us, for us. So yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Start with the networks though. Once you have the viewership, numbers matter.
Most
That's
definitely.
it. But if you only have us tuning in on it, you ain't making that NFL money. Matter of fact, you're probably not going to make it through 2 seasons.
Wow. Interesting.
That is what it is. But if you can start with the network, guess what? You got to include a whole lot of people in that. You know, you got Snoop is now doing content for, I don't know what network it is, but they're figuring it out. It's not separate but equal. It's, let's go ahead and integrate all this stuff. And once we get the upper hand, it's going to be their network that now is our network. And if they want the NFL to continue, business as usual will put you out of business just as soon as a bad business decision. What's going to happen is it's going to be the same network, same people get, but it's going to be us controlling.
Well,
we don't
like
have to
when
reinvent the wheel. We just need to take the reins.
Well, you remember last meeting we had, I was headed to the NAB show in Las Vegas. You remember?
Right.
You there, Gene? So
It's
that,
about the media. It's about the media.
look at right here, the NAB show, y'all. And this is where I learned again that we don't need them anymore. That's why the land, because once we have our own facilities and warehouses, now we can purchase the equipment. We can purchase the same movie studio cameras that weren't offered to the public 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, because Hollywood's fallen. These networks are all falling. The NFL would go bankrupt if they didn't do certain things. That's why they got to pull strings. I'm telling y'all, the NFL was going to go bankrupt if they didn't integrate black players. The MLB was going bankrupt. That's why they brought in brothers. All these organizations, they really, we forget that they used us so they didn't go bankrupt. But now that we have cameras, and now that people like Brother Gene has land, this is what we can build on. When we have the cameras, everything's not satellite anymore, y'all. So when we were in Las Vegas, they're like, yo, this is digital. So they had a big map, and it showed all these strings of digital networks now to where people aren't even using satellites. So just like there's Netflix, Tubi, YouTube, we have the opportunity right now amongst this so-called chaos, y'all, to build our networks. And then like Brother Valdez was saying, they're going to have to come to us. We just have to see our power, because when we have the cameras and we can record people, and other businesses want to advertise, because that's really what it's about. The money comes in the advertising. So people will come when we have the stadiums to have all the so-called black artists perform at our venues, and we say none of them are performing at your venues unless you start supporting us. Like you said, they become part of our network, and we take our power back because we are the battery. Just like the jerseys. Imagine all the money that these jersey companies made. The fabric, the paint, the shipping, even though we know what's going on with the shipping right now with the U.S. ports, y'all. Once again, everything is being dismantled. These are opportunities. This is why Ice Cube, you were saying Snoop has his league. These are little breadcrumbs of where we need to be as a people, because you see what's going on in Africa as well. The brother from Burkina Faso taking over the gold mines again. So once again, we had Chris Carter, y'all. He basically, Gene and Larry basically said it, what Chris Carter said. I guess I would have to agree with y'all when it comes to business and distractions. Although it is entertainment, the entertainment is a business. Entertainment business. So
Show business. Show business.
Definitely.
Prime time. And it's about the money, and it's about the money. That's it.
And do you feel he would have got lost in Las Vegas? We see already. I already said when they put the NFL team in Vegas, you're going to hear about a lot of crazy stuff with players. And you hear players already going to jail
Right
for
off
murder, live right off
Off
the bat. So maybe that wasn't a good place for him. You know, Cleveland, away from all the Hollywood stuff, you know. But do you guys notice a trend when it comes to Hollywood children? And either them being even to the right, you see it. But I also say I'm thankful Shadeur even made it to the NFL, because I've never seen a player get hit so illegally. And then LeBron James' son almost didn't make it when he had the heart attack thing. And then even Gilbert Arenas' son had that accident. Do you guys ever see a trend with some of these celebrities, kids kind of turning out a certain way, and then accidents randomly happening?
You know, celebrities, before they're celebrities, they're just part of the population of regular people. Accidents happen every day to all of us. We hear about this because they are celebrities. But if you look at the odds of what's the chance of this happens all over. Now, we just don't hear about. You know, my neighbor, you know, had a heart attack. His son did this, but I didn't hear about that. But you're going to hear about Bronning because yeah, he's a public figure. His dad's a public figure. So what we hear about celebrities is not anything out of the ordinary, but because their parents are public figures, we're going to hear about it. And it's news, and it sells papers. Goes back to the media. But all the stuff that happens is not just unique to them. It happens all over.
I can agree with that. So you're saying this is an issue even to the right, where black men turning boys to women praise, black men turning boys to men is a problem. That this is an issue that's in the black community then.
It's in the black community, but they also, there's been studies and they're saying that the transgender thing is regional. And they said, if you're born this way, why is it there's so many in California and on the West Coast? And the answer is this. A lot of the transgender population is coming to the coast because other countries don't allow it. So if you're in fear for your life, like you can't come out as this or that, you're coming from, you know, Russia, Ethiopia, any African, you're coming to New York, you're coming to California where you can be celebrated.
Yeah,
even Mexico, you understand, there's a lot of people from Mexico here that are either transgender, bisexual, this is that, because it's accepted. So when you have these operations, you say, well, why are they all in California? Well, they're on the coast because their countries are telling them, hey, you need to leave, or they're in fear for their lives and they're leaving. And that's what happens. But we're literally talking about less than 2%, or actually it's like a half of 1% that's got the media in the buzz. Like they have literally hijacked the whole platform when it came to the election, and it's sad. But you know, I'm all for it. Whatever you want to do is what you want to do. But we're talking about less than 1% of the population. That is a hot topic for the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It's crazy.
Yeah, the past 9 years.
Yeah. Yet you're not talking about Black Native Americans. They're not talking about all the other things that they could be talking about in California. Yet less than 1% of the population is getting, you know, people are ready to fight.
Well, there you go, brother. You just said it. That's an agenda. That's an agenda as well.
There's a lot of, you know, you look at California, you look at
Hollywood too.
And behind it, and guess what?
There you go. It's Hollywood. It's Hollywood that gives off the mass image to the mass population with people who have TVs in their household. So the so-called to the left, the father, braggadocious father, and a successful son who went to college, got good grades. Same down here, got his son. Both of them got their sons into the league, and we have to understand, for those who didn't make it in the pros, when you're out working a 9 to 5 and going business, you see that that's what goes on. Fathers put on their sons. You know, is this that so-called Black people make up less than 1% out here in the Inland Empire, California, of Black-owned businesses? So I'm not sure the percentage of Black-owned businesses that make over $1 million a year. If someone's watching this, you know, type it in. What's the percentage of Black-owned businesses that make over 1 million? You know, and that's really not a lot when you talk about corporations. So once again, y'all, this is why we have to have our own broadcasting networks. And this is the time, because once we have the land and factories, all we need is the robots. All we need is the equipment. All we need is the 40 acres instead of the mule. All we replace it with a 3D printer that can build a house. You feel me? So now we can start doing that. Let's start looking at it. But I also like how you said that's still part of the culture. We can't deny that this is still going on in America and in our culture. So that's an interesting take. What do you think, Larry June, or Brother Larry Davis, with this picture right here? Do you feel that it's an agenda to basically say that being a great so-called black father is bad, but if you raise your son to be a homosexual, that's praise? Because for me, in the future, that's what they want. They want so-called black boys to be homosexual. They want black women to be lesbian and only use the black male for reproductive purposes. They want to strip him of his godlyhood and so-called manhood and replace that with a Chris Tucker in Fifth Element. Therefore, the future, there will be no black Indian or Muur or Moor or thought of that, because the goal of the colonizer is to erase any reminiscence or any idea or memory of the Moors, Moors, and black Indians ever existing. And the best way to do that is the promotion of the Hollywood so-called Roman type of lifestyle. So for me, it does come out of Hollywood, and they use these celebrities and black men who are part of certain brotherhoods to push an agenda. And then demonizing Shadeur, I felt that it was a good thing for us is to understand business, but to the world, how would a young so-called black kid feel? For me, I get it. You got to watch where you step in the so-called Europeans world. You're trying out for a job, basically, is what you're telling them. But if I was a kid, I would probably feel bad. I think that caused a lot of damage to our young brothers to see how they treated Shadeur, because a kid doesn't know. All he knows is that Shadeur got good grades. He listened to his father. We saw how he was treated on the field. He was projected to go 1 or 2. It's not like they were saying he was going to go 2nd or 3rd round. He was already projected, and they knew how the brother acted. They knew Dion. It wasn't like this is something new. So for me, that tears down the young black brother's ego to feel. Because when I was in college, my coach didn't like that. And it messed with me, because for me to get ready for practicing meets, I'm listening, my headphones getting ready, and stop that. Why are you doing that? It's because they're not our culture. They're not soul people. We are a different species than them. And so us having jewelry on, because we're going to get to the Indians, us having jewelry on, that's what we rocked. Us having soul and rhythm, that's how we are as a people. And so that's why I say it's time for us to get up out of the system, because let's look at what Cleveland is really all about, y'all, as we go to the next slide. The Cleveland Indian mascot was Brother Hamp, a little black Indian. So this is in 1925, y'all, because Cleveland, Ohio had the Moors, which is Tamare. Tamare is a education system. It's a knowledge system, because us and Mours and Moors and so-called black Indians have a culture. So when the pale-skinned Europeans came here, of course, with the Moorish as slaves, but long story short, when they took over our stadiums. They took over our lands. So us as so-called black Indians were already in Cleveland. This is what Brother Shadeur represents with this number of the 144, y'all. We go right here. The number 44 is popping up always, because that's one of the magical numbers, 44, infinity, the 144, us ascending. This is a call for me. The numbers is ascension, 144, y'all. This isn't a coincidence. So for me, once again, this is proof that the NFL owners are warlocks. They're magicians. These aren't your average pale-skinned European who works a 9 to 5. These are people who are locked into the most royal, noble bloodlines. You can't come from even though they show like Jerry Buss, how these people, he's a Jew. He was a Jew. So let's look at all the NFL owners. How many NFL owners, those watching the show, how many NFL owners practice the Jewish faith? Let's find that out. And let's see how many of the executives, because when we're watching the NFL draft, there's only one or two brothers in those rooms. Most of those teams, there's nothing but pale skin Europeans. So for me, it's like, wow, you got 20 so-called pale skin Albions bidding over a black man. It's a slave auction, y'all. We are watching a slave auction of the black Indians once again, and Shadeur Sanders represents that with the number 144. So anyone watching this, type in what's the spiritual significance of the number 144. Then type in what's the spiritual and numerology significance of the number 44. And that lets you know that these NFL owners use numbers and numerology. I took a class in college called Sports Psychology at Cal State San Marcos, and it talked about how the NFL, the football, the numbers, the yards, the baseball diamond, the way the basketball court is set up is all numerology. It's all psychology. It's all mind. So it's all math. From the rebounds is math, the yards per game, the time, it's all math. That's why they have Las Vegas. Who got Las Vegas? The half amalgamated Moors, the Italians. We know that the Sicilians are Moors, they're half Moors. So they had the knowledge of what Las Vegas was prior to the ancient or the recent reset. So Las Vegas used to be beachfront property, y'all. Water used to be there. That was the bottom of the seabed. So those Moors, the Italians, used that energy to build up Las Vegas and have a numbers game. And who invented the numbers game? Us as Muurs and Moors. Go look up the Black Indian dice games. So when you see brothers playing dice, and when you see us, we were doing that. That's how we settled wars, y'all. Did you guys know that so-called gambling and dice games is how we would settle wars? So when you would see us going at each other playing rugby and football, when the pale skins saw us, they would be like, oh, they're going to war with each other. No, we were playing games at a high level that they couldn't compete in, to the point where you could get your head chopped off. Imagine being at that type of level where you knew that you didn't die. And if you got your head chopped off, it was a ceremonial thing. We were playing games with balls of fire where we would set the ball on fire and kick it. These are real games that we were playing, y'all. So once again, 144, the Cleveland Browns, is a numerology code for us to wake up, y'all. These NFL owners are warlocks. This is why they tell you 7.3 million viewers. It's all numbers, and they use it to change space and time. All these increments of numbers actually create realities and create different dimensions when they use us as Muurs and Moors. So without us, the NFL does not exist. Therefore, that dimension doesn't exist. So once again, when we create our ball games, a young black child's never going to have to worry about getting put down for being braggadocious. A young brother's never going to have to feel when he's 15 years old like, damn, I got to watch how I say, and it allows so-called white men, pale-skinned men, to feel that they have power over you. And to hear Chris Carter and all these brothers basically tell young brothers, hey, man, you got to watch yourself when you go around white people. Even though you graduated to the NFL, we understand this to be true, but it's still telling and teaching our young brothers that they have to be in a subservient position. And we don't want that. That raises future slaves. That raises young black boys to say, damn, it's basically almost telling them that they're nothing, because you're supposed to teach them that they're gods. The moment you tell a young black brother and he sees an example of buck breaking, because that's what just happened in front of our eyes, y'all. I know we try to put it into business.
Buck breaking.
Yeah. You guys remember buck breaking when they would tie the baddest, most braggadocious brothers to the pole, and the pale-skinned Europeans would rape him and have his homies. And when that would happen, he would no longer have his swagger. And now he could be controlled. And this is what happens in the NFL. They have all these big, braggadocious black giants, black Indians playing for pale-skinned European slaves. They have reversed the role. We no longer know who we are as a people. Our people are lost. The fact that we are in 2025 and are making excuses for a brother graduating from college, staying out of trouble, having a father, they praise God, they praise Jesus, and he still gets punished for it. That's a problem. The fact that we still have to make up excuses, we shouldn't be in this reality. This is why we must separate. We cannot allow young brothers to see this ever again. This was a tragedy. A 13-year-old boy watching this and then asking his dad, you're going to have two different situations. One where one dad is mad, the other says the buck breaking, and then you have dads who talked about, like Gene talked about, Brother Larry, what we're saying, being able to tell your sons different perspective of what's going on, you know. But we shouldn't have to be in this anymore. It has to stop. And then imagine the energy for this young pale-skinned boy to call Shadeur Sanders and everybody watch it and laugh at him for not getting drafted. Can you imagine that as a brother? These are things that he's going through. A real person, man. So I tell people we got to support this brother, man. I'm a Cleveland Browns fan now. The only time I liked the Browns was with Eric Metcalf back in the day. I don't really look for any other players. Other than Jim Brown, right? Jim Brown for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, there you go. You got Jim Brown.
There you
Right,
go.
right. But who I saw play, and Jim Brown was a black Indian, y'all. Jim Brown, Syracuse lacrosse, because us as black Indians played lacrosse. In that sport, once brothers play, the pale skins can't compete. They can't compete with us on a high level. That's when steroids and all that come into play. That's why they have to have the so-called white boys still as quarterback. For one, like Gene said, business, they might lose viewership, but really it's going to make the white boys feel less than. That's really what it is. It's going to show that we are superior than them. We are not equal. Us believing that we're human, that shit needs to stop, y'all. We are not human. The pale-skinned European is mixed with a Neanderthal. They're cave people. Much love to all beings, but we are different, and we have to approach life as we move up and forward in this matrix hologram to separate our minds from the European. We have to. These are parasitic people. These are vampires, like the movie Sinner was telling y'all. These are
like I was commenting on from that last video from Sanders. Yeah, like basically they're energy vampires, freaking draconians, reptilians, stealing every energy.
Yes. Keep going. I'm listening. You know, you guys know, cut me off at any time, Gene, too.
Yeah.
You know it is.
You guys, did you stay till after the credits?
I did, brother.
Did you see at the end where they walk into the bar and he's still alive?
Yes. It lets you know.
It's about amalgamation. It's about, you cannot say this is us, this is them. You keep taking over little by little. Sooner or later, you're going to take over everything. Just like the Roman Empire. They would conquer a country and, hey, you know what, you guys do your thing, whatever, but we're going to be amongst you. And we're going to mate with you, and we're going to reproduce. And next thing you know, you spread. That's what it is. It sounds great to say, hey, we're going to be separate. At the end of that movie, there was another meaning to it. It's, you know what?
I got
right
it.
there.
For me,
right
at the ending, it lets us know, for one, black vampires walk amongst us. I gave a breakdown 2 episodes ago of the Sinners movie. For me, when the
Definitely.
Moors went into the caves, some of them got bit by the vampires. The cave people, they got bit, meaning that the parasite got into certain Moors and Moors. You talk about brothers who are also living in cold climates in Europe as well. And those Moors and Moors, Moors that got bit, they became black vampires and bit other so-called black European Moors. And so what
I
happened
get it.
when the Moors from Europe came, they came as black vampires as well. And so did their troglodyte monkey slaves. Their European Irish slaves were vampires. And so they used those vampires to go to war with us as Choctaw. Us as Choctaw were vampire hunters. They told us that we used to scalp these motherfuckers. And that's why we have to stop looking at ourselves as black people and African Americans. Why? Because the moment you understand that you're an Indian, you'll see that the North American Indian Wars never stopped. Once you
No,
understand,
it didn't. That people don't realize it.
Won't stop.
it's
It
still
ain't
happening. And so in the movie Sinners, the Irish dude was telling them, he said, we're going to take over. And basically he was saying everything. And that's why when he had the boy getting baptized, when the blues singer started saying the Lord's Prayer, all the Christians probably thought that was going to save him. What did the vampire say? He said, man, a man came into Ireland and said that to my father. It's very pleasing. So he is basically saying that the church already came with that bullshit. Because you guys, once again, got to learn about the Irish being persecuted, right? Not just with the potato famine, but the Catholics, the Moors teaching them the magic, the Druids, the Celtics, the leprechauns, the Twa, the Pygmy, all that. But on the topic of vampires, when these vampires came amongst us, they just weren't biting us, because you have to study cannibalism, study how Europeans were eating people back in the day. That's their culture, and they still practice this today. So at the end of the movie also, it showed you that the black vampires are in Hollywood. It showed you that the immortals walk amongst you. This is why some of your favorite celebrities, you can type in Google right now, and whether it's Jay-Z, T-Pain, and other celebrities, you can find them in the 1800s. You can find them in the 1700s. That's because the majority of your celebrities, the majority of your leaders are either vampires, immortal beings, extraterrestrials. They're not going to put normal people, or if they're a new person who gets inducted to Hollywood, they have to get bit, or they have to become a human slave for the vampires, like the movie Blade. The movie Blade was telling you guys how the vampires run Hollywood, and they have the police, they have the Pope, they have the church, and that there's humans who don't get bit, but they have a bidding for the vampires, and they get to participate in that reality. So this world is real, y'all.
What's it called? Damn, they were named something, but they were like literally their enforcers and everything, doing what they say or what they do, and they lead what's the name to the vampires so they could either get bit or one day when they get enough favor for their master, they get bit too and become
Yes.
a vampire.
Yes, and that's where you guys see the celebrities, because I was in Hollywood, y'all. So you would know when people got branded. So like when you saw Cassie and them, they started doing that, and then all the girls copied them. So Cassie, that was a brand. When you started seeing Mike Tyson or Lil Wayne and all those dudes getting branded, those were brands. The face tattoos, now everyone's gonna have face tattoos. They're copying the celebrities that are vampires. Same with the teeth. You saw how all the celebrities started getting all those fake teeth. They were copying the celebrities that their fangs were showing. This is real, y'all. I'm telling y'all, extraterrestrials and vampires walk amongst us. And now that the worlds and dimensions are merging, a lot of them can't hold their form. This is why so many children and people are coming up missing more, because they have to eat, they have to feed to hold their so-called human form. because the majority of people walking around are either NPCs, then like I said, are non-human beings. It gets heavy. I know.
Yeah, basically like they're programs.
Yes, and
Well,
that's what.
I'm an werewolf. I'm a
There you
werewolf predator looking for
there you
knowledge.
go. There you go.
And
so,
you know what? And then if I have a pack of werewolves that are all looking for knowledge, sometimes you can't say everything.
Yeah,
Sometimes
and plus
you
the
gotta have
werewolf is pretty.
you could be right and wrong at the same time. When you live in a descriptive world versus a prescriptive world, things should be a certain way, but they're not that way. We need to adjust and live in the way and win in the way that we can. Because yeah, we can point fingers, this and that, but sometimes it's not good to let everybody know everything you're thinking, because then they're not going to want to deal with it. So a lot of people who get information and you give it to the wrong people, they might think, oh, okay, well then if his intent is going to be contrary to what my motivation for doing all this is. And sometimes it's best to be like, you know what, this is the way things are. Things should be this way, but they're not that way right now. So let's operate where we can. The land use, these assembly bills, whatever, I want operate in this. And then when we get there, hey, all of a sudden we're at the same place. How they all get there at the same time.
I agree. That's what we need, Brother Gene. We need brothers and sisters in all assets of this so-called movement of knowledge.
But just like Martin and Malcolm, you know what rules the world to this day, Putin's even said, it's unpredictable consequences. I can have all these other things, but if on the other side, behind curtain 2 is, I can't tell you what's going to happen. You have to have an alternative. The plan can't be come up with a better plan. We're going to do this, but these unpredictable consequences are probably going to happen if this doesn't go the right way. It's different fronts.
I see it. Well, you guys see this picture right here. You see the ships, and we already know what's going on with the ships, but this is what we do, Gene. We build our stadiums, right? To the right, you see the farms, and to the left, our education centers. But let's go on with the next slide right here. So now that we were talking about Cleveland Indians, and the Cleveland Indians are what you would call your Mours and Moors, who have been misclassified as Black and African American. Do you guys know who this picture is? Satchel Paige, considered the greatest pitcher of all time, or one of the greatest pitchers of all time, who was in the Negro League. And this is when he was signed by the Cleveland Indians in his 40s. So this was a big deal. And doesn't he resemble those original Cleveland Indians, y'all? Because we are those people. And they said that Satchel Paige and the brothers in the Negro Leagues had different, the way that they could spin the ball. The pale skins couldn't pitch like that. So they couldn't exist in our leagues like that. Only a few of them. That's why Ted Williams, and we know that Williams comes from us. They taught us that we got our last names from them, but it's the other way around. You got to remember, the Europeans just got out the caves. The Moors gave them names and countries and nationalities and language. So right here, you're seeing a representation of the original picture. And why did they have to stop that? Because if they had the MLB and the Black Indians, meaning the indigenous, dark-skinned, woolly-haired, curly-haired people of this land still playing baseball, what's in the MLB? All that money, right? So what the MLB does is they get Mours and Moors from Puerto Rico, Cuba, all the other Latin countries, because they know if the MLB focus their efforts like the NFL and NBA do in the inner city, the so-called pale-skinned European could not compete with us in baseball. So it's very serious when you understand time and death. Like I said, my father just passed, and understanding that wasting time. I'm not going to live life with the excuse of not moving forward, pumping the information, because what happens is that it doesn't ever happen. And in this next generation, being that it's a COVID generation, these kids don't have the intelligence and the knowledge that we have, just like a lot of us are less intelligent than our parents, grandparents, because society is being dumbed down. It's imperative that we learn about Satchel Paige, the Negro League, and the Cleveland Indians, and the original Black Indians of Ohio, because to the right, you see technology. If you look closely, you guys can see this tower. This is different obelisks. These are different types of etheric machines that were able to capture etheric free energy and bring energy to this region. So when you look at this device, look at the sacred geometry on the landscape, y'all. This is 1920s still downtown Cleveland, but what they do with the technology, they'll cap it off. So you see a troglodyte on top, right? So this is just reminiscence of when you go to every downtown in America. Once again, type in the postcards, y'all. That's a way to check out the proof of the reset. Type in downtown Los Angeles, 1800s, downtown Chicago, 1900s. Type in any major city and you'll see huge buildings that were already there that pale-skinned Europeans didn't have enough knowledge to have built. And so once you start understanding who we are as a people, you'll understand more that we have been here. There were, just like your downtown, there was the major cities of us, and then the further you went out, there were more farms, rural areas, just like Colton is about 2 hours away from downtown Los Angeles, 3 hours from Las Vegas, 3 hours from San Diego. You feel me? It's the same situation that we did as so-called Black Indians. And so here, well, go ahead.
I was saying, if you go to the monuments downtown LA and right there where Union Station is, 26 of the 44 founders of Los Angeles were actually African-American mixed Black. They were us. Colton actually was Aguamanza, was the center point of the Spanish Trail. So that knowledge is there, but what do cities do, and what do counties do when you present it to them? They ignore it.
When you tell them about that,
this is why we want to redo this, this, and this, and check these grave sites. What do? They ignore it. And now it's up to us to say, okay, you know what? They're going to ignore us until they can't anymore. And that's the hard part. That is the hard part.
I'm listening. You talked about the Spanish Trail. I believe, didn't they call that the Gold Trail in Colton?
Well, the Spanish Trail was actually it was a trading post right there where that Santa Ana River. You look at the plaques of this diverse group of people that came to Colton. But you got to remember, Colton was founded, Aguamanza was founded by slaves. They not Black slaves. They were actually taken Indian slaves that were converted, they went from New Spain to Mexico, whatever, and they sent them out there to form the city. Now they don't speak about that, but the correlation between Black Seminoles, Buffalo Soldiers, and Apache, and who also indoctrinated me into their tribe. It's huge because this is something that they do not want to talk about, because if they talk about it for cultural resources update, there's a lot of money there. These consultants are getting a lot of, wait a minute, these people have been here and it's proven. Like I said, Seminole means somebody in the wild, somebody without a trade, that's a tribe. You look at gaming from Florida, we invented gaming. Like you said, with the dice, I'm glad you let me know, but the first Indian gaming started with Seminole, and every Native American will actually acknowledge that. Seminole started Indian gaming in the 70s.
Take a look at this, y'all. This is a picture of a Seminole. His name is Gopher Child. Go for John. Type in that name, y'all. Go for John. And for all my biblical people who believe in Noah's Ark, what type of wood was Noah's Ark? Can anybody say?
What kind of wood?
It was gopher wood, y'all.
Oh, wow.
And coincidentally, his name is Gopher John.
He also goes by John Horse. John Horse is also more popular. Same person.
And that brother led people into Mexico, correct?
Led people to Mexico, people who have never been slaves. And Mexico actually,
Esteban Kiko,
they actually donated the land. And to this day, that land grant stands. But Vicente Fernandez, one of the presidents of Mexico at the time, he was black himself. He was mixed.
Yes, he was mixed because you guys
people don't understand that Mexico was anti-slavery because they had a president at the time who was black.
Well, check this out, y'all. Now that we have our stories and knowledge of the Moors, when we always think that the Spanish were pale skinned. No. The Spanish who came were dark-skinned Moors who brought their amalgamated children and then their pale-skinned slaves. You feel me? So when the Spanish came, you have to think that not pale-skinned Moors. I did a special on it. It was Drew Hill. These are the times we all wish for. A moment to last me so much. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
That song, that video was filmed at Mission Inn in Riverside, California. And they were dressed up as Moors.
Yeah.
Watch the video again. And so it was letting you guys know that the Moors were already in Riverside County and the Inland Empire. But when the Spanish came, the Moors with the pressed up hair, because you guys got to remember, we can grow afros, but with heat, you can have long, silky hair. You feel me? Like James Brown and all those brothers. And coincidentally, y'all, Cleveland is where the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is. And I didn't know that. And it's a pyramid right there, y'all. So that cannot be a coincidence. And then I was looking up, digging the Cleveland Museum of Art collection online as of April 30th, 2028, released this, the Moorish Lancers, America, Ohio, Cleveland, 1866, 1942. You feel me, y'all? So now I want everybody watching this to go do more research on the city of Cleveland and its Moorish heritage, Cleveland and Black Indians, because check this out. I'm going to big this screen up. It says, what ancient tablets were found in Ohio? The Cincinnati tablets. It's called the Adena tablets, discovered in Ohio, Kentucky, and West Virginia, that are engraved with similar Egyptian inscriptions. So you guys can look closely who are watching this, and you guys can see to the right Ohio's connection to Mormon mummies. The Latter-day Saints purchased Egyptian mummies and papyrus skulls in Kirtland, Ohio in 1835, y'all. Joseph Smith translated the scrolls, including one containing the writing of Abraham. Not the person, but you learn about Abraham. That's the teaching, that's star. Because us as Mours and Moors, we map the stars. So the further we travel in the past, the further we go back in time, we find ourselves. This is why the saying goes, if a person doesn't know his past, they don't know where you're going. They have to teach us that we came here on slave ships from Africa via pale-skinned Europeans to erase time, to erase reality, to put you in a false, fictitious, dream-like state of mind. You are somewhere else because our people, the majority of the planet, believe that they're black. The majority of the people think that we're black. The majority of our people do not understand that you were already here. So mentally, you don't have to travel all the way to West Africa or Africa. Now your mind can say, I'm already home. And that's when your mind has the activation codes that once you open up, you'll be able to receive downloads and uploads from the plants, the ground, the earth, the sun, that no other so-called human can receive. So once you start understanding that you are already in Ohio, how do we know? This event highlights historical connections between Ohio and the study of Egyptian artifacts, y'all. So right here, they have proven, and it's not an argument now. How do we know? Because who are the serpent people, y'all? Who are those people? We are the serpent people. And right here in Ohio, you find the serpent mounds. And it's the same culture that we find in Kemet, Tamare, Egypt. The same culture that we find in Mexico, right? With the pyramid, with the plum serpent coming down Chichen Itza. Because the Olmec in Washita, us as Black Indians, we travel. Not only did we travel underground, we had spacecrafts, we had electricity. You got to remember, they came here searching for El Dorado, cities of gold. So that meant that we had inventions to where vehicles could travel using solar or electricity. Think about it, y'all. In the 1800s, they teach us about Black inventors. They teach about all these brothers who invented all these things. But we know that slaves cannot create that. A slave doesn't know anything. That's because we already were building those inventions here in America. So that's where this was what they say, the advanced Atlantis, Lemuria, the advanced Wakanda, the black land of the Black Panther, right? This is the land of the serpent. They just recently found this place, y'all. And so what they did by wiping us out as the serpent plum people, it created a new ripple in space and time for them to exist, for them to create a false sense of reality to distract us for the time that we're here now. And this is what the tales are telling us with Shadeur Sanders being drafted 144. So do you guys have any knowledge on the Serpent Mounds?
Everything I've learned about them has been from you. You mentioned them when we last met. It's like, you know what, that Ohio, like I said, hasn't been on my radar for vacations or anything like that. But I gotta I would like to go see Ohio, see Shadeur out there, get busy, and that could be a good call to action. One of these games where we could all meet out there, have us a little convention. Because I would love to go view this stuff and make it more than the sports, make it more than a entertainment thing.
Well, that's what we're gonna do, because that's all we have to do, y'all. We have the equipment. They have things like the gimbal that shoot at a 1080i. So now we're able to travel and record these things, and that's going to be part of our network, y'all. Just like people watch dumb TV shows, they're going to tune in to channels like this. This is the new cool, y'all. I promise you, the gangster shit, the thug shit is out the window. All that is out the window. The nerds are in now, y'all. The smart, intelligent brothers are in. So look at in the middle, y'all. They showed the purpose of this. It's like a dial. Do you guys see it in the middle?
It almost looks more like a constellation, like Orion or something.
Yes.
Even there was some other snake constellation.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I forgot the name of it.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm looking at it as a computer circuit board, and this being a real machine. Like there's a way to work it, meaning like that's why they don't want us to travel to these sites. But clearly the owners want us. Like I said, they can only go as far as we go. Their world, Donald Trump is destroying America, in case you guys didn't know. So our slaves are dismantling the fake world so the gods can bring it in. I'm telling y'all, and the ones that get trapped in that world, they're not going to ascend. But right here, we see proof of an advanced culture, y'all. No, the plain Indians, the Siberians, the Native Americans, they lived in teepees. They didn't build mounds. And they
Yeah,
taught
most
us this all throughout
definitely.
school, right? They
Yep.
they they continuously told us that they were well, now that we link it up, we know that they're Siberians. But when we go look at the pictures of them, this is who they look like. Those aren't the mound builders. Don't they look like the Native Americans of today? If they were putting heat in a little burnt, that's because the Native Americans are not the indigenous people of the land. So when Gene was saying that they're the most racist, yeah, it's because they're denying our heritage. There's a scene in the movie.
It's about the money. They don't want, the more you guys split that casino money up, the less money you get.
Oh
There's
yeah,
a
the $5 Indians too.
Oh
Most
yeah,
yeah.
there's a scene
definitely.
with Dances with Wolves. In the movie Dances with Wolves, Kevin Costner tells one of the Indians, he said, "You're not indigenous to this land. You killed the Blackfoot, you killed them, da 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 da." And they were like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh." And so if you go back, anyone watching this, go back and type in Dances with Wolves. Kevin Costner tells Native Americans they're not indigenous. In that scene, if you have knowledge, the European is letting you know that the Native Americans that you think are indigenous, they're not. They're Siberians. And our proof is right here with structures like the Serpent mounds. They only built in teepees. Only an advanced people who've been here for thousands of years could build this. This meant that they had to have aircraft. They had to have farming, right? Because this didn't come out in one day. They clearly there's underground tunnels in this. They had to study the sun, the moon, the stars, the landscape.
Mm-hmm.
So this is who we are as a people. This is what we spend our time doing, eating magic mushrooms, eating different plant medicine. Instead of fake food that doesn't give us information, we eat from real food now, and it's going to get us information on how to escape. I promise you, y'all, the land is waiting for us. The land is connected to us, unlike them. This is why when Europeans connect to the land, they become better people. We had to teach them how to farm. You feel me? A person from West Africa cannot come from a slave ship and know how to farm on a foreign land. You cannot do that. It
You
takes
gotta,
Exactly.
you also got to
'Cause-
look at the history of North America. When you talk about the 5 civilized tribes, the 5 civilized tribes decided to inherit every trait, every characteristic, quote, everything that the Europeans had. That's why they call them the civilized tribes. It included slavery. Now, John Horse got most of the freemen to Mexico and away from the Civil War long before it even started. But these 5 civilized tribes, who are now, to this day, they figure that, being more European is the way to go. If your foot is on somebody's neck for this long, you're in for a fight as soon as you let it off. So they're going to do everything they can to keep what they have because it's possession and position. There is no way to say, hey, you know what? This casino, all this stuff that we started, and it says right here, Treaty of 1866, after the Civil War, we're all supposed to be part of the tribe. That all happened. But once the casino money hit, it was like, hey, we got to do, wait a minute, you're by blood. That blood quantum is not there to include, it's there to just get rid of us.
You just reminded me of the show Yellowstone. Did any of you guys ever watch
yeah,
that?
that's
Oh
why
yeah, Yellowstone.
Yeah,
Yellowstone is great. Yellowstone is great. Kevin, I'm sorry they killed Kevin Costner off, but Kevin Costner grew up in Compton. A lot of people don't realize this. He's from Compton. He knows the real story, but he knows Hollywood is not going to buy that. He went off, tried to do his own thing, and maybe it was just, he had this in his mind 10, 20 years ago. He probably was going to do a whole spinoff and tell the true story. But as you get up,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he grew up.
I've heard
Did
that, but
there.
I
He
wouldn't have been
knows
able to
the
say that.
history, but to get Hollywood to say, "Hey, there's Native Americans in California, which is the fourth largest economy that look like us," that is that the heart
Gene,
to swallow. And what's going to happen is, as we tell this story, hey,
Mhm.
I feel, you know what? We got this Jim Crow feather movement, and we got also a no before you go campaign. And maybe you guys shouldn't be performing it because you can't name one black supplier in any of these casinos. They're not selling Uncle Nearest. They're not selling any of our stuff, but they'll have us sing, dance, fight, and do everything else. And nobody's going to say anything about it because they don't want to mess up their money. Truth is, nobody really cares.
Shouts to Justin Hudson and IE. I love IE. He might be in the casinos and airports now, but once again, it's still less than 1%, y'all, of what Gene's saying. Because I know someone in the chat is going to mention that 1 or 2 or 3 people, but you're absolutely correct. And I wouldn't have been able to say that Kevin Costner was from Compton. Thank you, because that's a connection. When you come into the city of Compton, my family, my mother is the very first black female ASB president of Compton High School, y'all. Let me say that again. My mother is the very first. When they integrated Compton High School, my mom can talk about that. She's the first class of when they got integrated.
Have a poster of that. You know what? Get a poster of that.
A documentary on my mom. There really should be a documentary. And so she could talk about Compton High. They're called the Tar Babies, a pitch black tar baby, which is a picture of the indigenous black Indians. That's why you call it Tartaria, because Tartary. And if you go to where my family was raised on Palmer Block, there's a mausoleum. So anyone watching this, if you are watching this, type in Compton, California cemetery. And you're going to see a Moorish huge castle in a graveyard off of Palmer Street. So Compton, California, Palmer Street graveyard. Type that in, y'all. And it's proof, because Compton were swamps as well before they created dams and all these things. And to this day, Compton has black cowboys, y'all. Compton has black cowboys.
Definitely.
So we're still there. And once again, Queen Califia, she was at the Griffin Observatory. The Griffins are real, because when you study Hollywood, that was already there. They just changed it up. I have a book I could grab and I could show you what Hollywood looked like. And you're going to see all Moorish, ancient Babylonian structures and African elephants, because there were elephants in the Americas. There are lions in America. You call them mountain lions. You feel me? There were all different types of beings in America, but that might be going off topic. So from Egypt to Ohio, y'all, right here, once again, like Gene was saying, we need to support this cause by the ethers and by the numbers and grab this energy, because it's all about knowledge. That's the wealth. You cannot pass to higher realms when you so-called die. That's why the Europeans, when they taught us in school, they always would say, oh, the Egyptians were fascinated with death. That's all they cared about. Yes, because this is the test. The other side is where your life really, most likely, I'm thinking, begins in another higher form. So the more points you accumulate, meaning the knowledge, not the cars, not the fancy stuff, is you doing the ancestors' work, getting the land, building the land, tending to the land, resurrecting the temples, while some of us are doing Indiana Jones type of stuff. That's all you need to be focused on right now, is getting the knowledge, because the knowledge is going to teach you that you're here and tend to the land, because it's already here. Ohio, I'm sure someone's going to be able to break down. Let me think of it. A-E-I-O-U. So A-E-I-Hua. So someone watching, I'm sure they're going to be able to break down what Ohio means. You feel me? But right here, you guys see the tablets that they found in Cincinnati. Doesn't it look similar to the stelas we find in Mexico with Lord Pacau's temple? That is an ancient Egyptian, because that brother was dark-skinned. And then to the right, the Adena tablets of ancient Ohio. Right there, y'all. You see it. It's undeniable. This is why they drafted Shadeur for me. It's codes being sent by warlocks, but most people are distracted. We get it lost in our emotions. This is why we have this network. This is why we have this TV show. So right here, you see Egypt to Ohio because it's a education system, y'all. Just like when they say Jerusalem, it's really Hey Jerusalem, which is studying the sun's technology. I can show you real quick. I have a book. It's called a book. And I can prove it. I gotta go to this. It's right here. It's called the Maya Technology. And then there's another book. It's called The Lost Tomb of Veracruz, Unlocking the Peruvian Pyramids. But basically, it connects Lord Pakal, Teotihuacan to Mexico, to Ohio, the Americas. Look at this, y'all. This is all the Americas. And it's showing you what I showed you earlier. When they say sun worship, meaning we were using the sun to create technology. We were able to break down the sun's language and music notes and able to communicate, meaning like this would be a device. Imagine this. And you know that Ampu, Anubis, comes from America, right? So once again, proving the culture. So this would be a device. Now imagine us having a radio station and coils in here, and you could talk to etheric beings in like a radio station, like Kevin Costner's movie, I think, where he was trying to communicate with the dead. It was called Blue, or anyone watching this, there was a Kevin Costner movie where he was trying to communicate with the dead, his dead wife, using a device. This just came to me, you know. So once again, we have and had the technology to tap in, because once you understand the mounds and the pyramids, just like they have radio stations that can broadcast 92.3 the beat on your FM dial, we used our obelisks and our mounds to send communication throughout the planet and to receive information from our family on other so-called planets, dimensions, and beings on high levels. And look at this. Look at this diagram of Cleveland mounds. We are the mound builders. So when you're in California, when you're all throughout the world, they put, like I was saying in Compton, they put the mausoleums, because in Compton there were pyramids, there were mounds in Compton. They'll either build a golf course where those mounds are. That's why there's always mounds on golf courses. Or they'll build a graveyard over your ancient Moorish structures. Or they'll let the grass and mud grow over the mountain pyramid, and you just think it's a mountain. So whenever you're in your cities, y'all, and you see a mountain that clearly looks like a pyramid, it is. It is, because Egypt, or Tamare, because Egypt is a Greek word. So don't allow people to say Egypt is in America. It's the knowledge. It's the culture. And we use words like Tameri or Kemet, because chemistry, alchemist, AL, alchemist, and alchemy. So that's a global language. And to the left, you guys see. So once again, you see a computer circuit. So what the mounds are, it's literally ley lines and computer circuits transferring information at a high level that clearly some of us are tapping into, but yet have received. And this is why they put us in their schools. This is why they have us playing the NFL. This is why they have us worshiping God and Jesus, because God is a word. God is G-O. It starts with G. Then it represents O-D. It's a glyph that represents a sound. And then someone gave you the definition of that glyph. That's why I teach people that God it's a word. It's a frequency that people have attached to for the slave master to give you a false reality. Meanwhile, he knows that you do this. And God didn't build this, because God is a word. And if we change vowels, A-E-I-O-U, if we change it to G-A-D, everyone look up what Gad means, G-A-D. and you'll learn that the word God is a European word that derives from a German word called Gad, which is a demonic entity. And what did the entity of the Bible and these things do? It went around killing the indigenous people of the land. They talk about coming into lands of giants, and they look like midgets to these people. These are your black Indians, like Wilt Chamberlain, your brothers who are 7'2" in the NBA, and they come from grandfathers who are 8 feet, 9 feet tall compared to Europeans or other people who are 4 feet, 5 feet tall. So this is who we are, everybody. The Mound Builders, the myth of a lost mound builder race. And on top, don't you see us? And doesn't that look like one of the ziggurats found in Samaria, y'all?
Hell yeah.
And you can find that in Mexico as well. You can find these structures in America. And so this is what it looked like before being covered up by dirt. So you see how it has layers like a cake. So imagine this debris eventually growing over it. This is what we need to spend our time on, y'all, is getting lands by these regions and digging. I'm telling y'all, we're going to find treasures because a lot of these sites are going unexcavated because they're waiting for us. The land is calling us. There's a book called The Rocks Cry Out. I got it here somewhere, but there's a book called The Rocks Cry Out, and it talks about, once again, America being the old world, and also the Bible also taking place here. So for me, just like we did in ancient times, we left America and we went into Africa. That's what it's seeming like, that there was a big devastation that occurred here in America, and we migrated into Africa. Because when I was in South Africa, it's nothing but plains, y'all. And it's animals that have chance to evolve like Jurassic Park, unlike the animals here that don't have the mane. So the mountain lions, if there were no cities in America, those mountain lions would grow manes like the ones in Africa, y'all. The jaguars that you see, the gators that you see in Florida, the anacondas and pythons, they're here. All that is here, y'all. And so
we used to have camels too before they moved to Africa, North Africa, and
I didn't know
Egypt.
that.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah,
I didn't know that. Can you expand on that, please?
yeah. Like before then, camels used to actually roam across North America back in the day,
Wow.
and they were like since around the Paleolithic era when they were around megafaunas with like woolly mammoths. But over time, you know how the Paleo Indians, they were hunting them for too much, and sometime later they had migrated across Africa to North Africa and all these northern regions like Saudi Arabia and all them places. It's really interesting.
Yeah, the La Brea tar pits, they got mammoths and all kinds of stuff right there. You know, right here in LA. Like,
I forgot about that.
Oh, and then to add on, like, yeah, mound builders, like we
Yeah.
have mounds in our camps too. Like
Really?
the one that I live nearby, it's a national mound. There's like a bunch of there's like a couple of mounds, and there's one that's also an exhibit.
oh wow. Just, you know
And
what?
then
That makes sense. That makes sense. Those mounds are, yeah. The counties, cities, state, they don't want you digging around them. Matter of
and
fact, they'll say Agomanda. Remember where the cemetery is? Mounds and mounds. But yeah, the county has that. They don't even want. I'm trying to clean up the grave site. They don't even. They want to charge me for that and say you got to do it from this hour to this hour, and they want to supervise it. So Yeah, there's something going on with these mounds in the Inland Empire.
Well, here you go.
They do not want us digging around there.
It's right here, y'all. The only geoglyphs in the United States are found where? Riverside County.
Hey.
The same exact geoglyphs that you find in Peru, and we know Peru means Heru, and there's a Herupa Valley in Riverside County. There's a now Riverside, right? There's a Corona. There's a Lake Elsinore. There's a Sun City. There's a Blythe. There's a Palm Springs, which is Shango, right? There's also what else? Other city names and that we can say. Harupa, Hemet. There's a Hemet.
Oh yeah, Hemet.
You know.
So they're saying, yeah. Well, there it is.
So right here, and then they took it off. I should have saved it. There was a glyph, and there still is, of a sister to the right. Now they have it pottery is the best thing I could find. But there's also a glyph of clearly a Moorish woman, because we're the only ones with the that hair. So that's on the ground. When you guys see it says Ansanazi or Anasazi. And doesn't that name sound familiar? Anasazi.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like a Nazi.
Right. There you go. And then even Nazi, not all these names, guys. Let's do etymology when we look at words, because that's how we discover the truth, by breaking the spell, because they spell, and that's why we got to do telepathy and really get to our ancient codex and hieroglyphs. You see the vase right here, y'all. That's a codex. That's sacred geometry that all of us should be able to read, that tells us what to do to escape the matrix. But basically what I'm saying is, to the right, where you see the sister, look at her hair. Only we can do that. They can't do that. That's why they have to put feathers in their hair and stuff like that, or certain hard hairspray grease. We are the original Mohawks, like Mr. T. And these are dreadlocks, just like the brothers in Miami and stuff. So basically what I wanted to show you is that here in Riverside, you can find many of these. And these are just the ones that they let visible. Imagine all the other ones in Southern California that they either don't tell us about or they covered up. And so this lets us know that this is extraterrestrial activity going on. Look at the sacred geometry patterns, like crop circles in the middle. Do you guys see that?
I see.
Those are crop circles, y'all, which for me is sacred geometry patterns that teach us about the universe. That's the real education system we're supposed to be focusing on. And you're able to access those the knowledge by eating plant medicine, of course, yoga and breathing techniques. This is why it's illegal to eat magic mushroom, ayahuasca, because all throughout Riverside County, like Jimson weed, they have all these psychedelic plants that grow in Riverside County that the Native Americans use to tap into other dimensions. Now imagine being in a civilization with no pale-skinned Europeans telling you that's illegal, and you're there for millions and thousands of years. Imagine what you would know. So imagine what you know right now, because you are those people and they are not. Therefore, they don't know. They can only assume, or they'll know by a shaman who told them, they wrote it down and they killed them. So right here in Blythe, Riverside, we have proof of Moors, Moors, African artifacts, Herupa. And so once again, sun knowledge, they call it sun worship, but using the sun to communicate with higher beings that give us information on how to have fun down here. And that's really what it is. Our people aren't having fun. Our fun is making them rich and wealthy. We have fun watching their basketball games. but we don't get the wealth. We have fun, and then we get amused when they put us down. This is the education system that we have to decode before the mothership arrives, y'all. We don't know the day, we don't know the time, but when the mothership arrives, some of them are here, but when it appears and they dock, it's going to change the frequency of the planet, merging dimensions, meaning it's going to lock in a reality. So if you're focused on this and studying this, that's what it is. But if you're lost in the hoopla and don't know any of this and it's weird, oh boy, watch the movies. Watch all all those movies of what is going to happen in their cities, like the Purge, as it's the final purge. This is why it's either we're gonna have to get picked up by ships and crafts in Mexico or here in Riverside County. For me, there's going to be pickup points all throughout the world, but let's talk about America. And they're going to be at the mounds. You're going to have to be vibrating on certain frequencies so you don't get on these ships that the U.S. government has already created to fool people, so you don't end up lunch meat or lunch food for these beings that look at humans and white meat. And really the reason why we created pale skins in the first place was when we went to war with these extraterrestrial beings, and they were actually a food source. And that can be another episode, and that's why they also hate us, because when we got banished into the caves, it was almost like the movie I, Robot, when they banished the robots to the warehouse. So when the Moors came and took them out in all these things and taught them certain information, of course they became jealous. Of course they became mad. We got to understand of us, the reason why they put us in cages now is because we put them in cages. The reason why they put us in shackles is because we put shackles to books. We had to water hose them down, you know, like the movie Harry and the Hendersons. That was them. You feel me? And to this day, if you go to the gym and you see a European or one of us, they got hair all over their back because they are not us. It took thousands and millions of years to create things like this, y'all. So this is why we're Moors and Moorish, the Moorish. We're the extraterrestrials. We're probably half earthling, half extraterrestrials. And this is how we phone home. This is how we communicate. And for those of us who want to go home, because they're gonna try to kill us in the last purge. The goal is for them to eradicate you as a Moor or Mer or an Indian. The original storyline, the original timeline of you being the creators of reality. We gave them the alphabet and a little degrees of knowledge to see what they would do. And you've seen what they've done. It's a little world that they live in. Like you were saying, it's only a small group of them manipulating the masses. So it goes the same thing. All it takes is a small group of us to change reality. And that reality exists right in front of our eyes. It did not stop. We have just been distracted by word spells, by games, like Dr. Francis Cress Welsing said, ball games. They're obsessed with our balls, you know, literally. They play, they're obsessed with balls, our genitalia. What they did to Shadeur Sanders, they cut off his balls, right? They stripped him of his manhood just for a freaking game. They stripped him. So everyone who's watching that, whether it was a racist move, whether people want to think of it not being that, the perception subconsciously still says niggas are still in their place. And then it gave a second one to where celebration of the Black Indian coming home, the 144, the numerology, the sacred geometry that they're telling you they speak in codes. They're not going to say, hey, we drafted him number 144 in 5th round on purpose at this exact time, at this reason. We got him going to Cleveland because this is happening and the mounds are activating, so we need him to circumvent the energy. But they're doing that to circumvent something. But also, there's some of them who want us to win. I'm telling y'all, not all of them. Some of them want to gain a soul. A so-called troglodyte woman, they can gain a soul or a bit of a soul when they birth one of us. This is the story of when we have sex with a human being. When we have sex with a human, they become mighty men. They become better than their father who's not one of us. But when we have sex with a human and we look at it as our blood, it weakens us. That lets you know that we are the gods. And that's the story when us as extraterrestrials and Els, right? Even in their Bible, all the angels have El at the end. Samuel, Michael, Gabriel. Els are Moors. That's a title. So once again, that's a priesthood who had the knowledge to travel the stars, travel different dimensions, go underground, live in the center of the earth, build pyramids, float objects, communicate with beings on higher levels to create what you see today. And so right here, this
I'm on this thing. Yeah. You haven't left yet?
And so right here, y'all, as we start, I know we on here, we're going to start closing it out soon. This is who we're dealing with. There's a movie called The Clan of the Cave Bear. My roommate in college, he was a European and he had Indian blood, right? You know how that goes, how they mixed in with the tribes. But right here, the movie Clan of the Cave Bear, it shows that they were the ice people. They were the cave people searching for fire. There's also a movie called Quest for Fire. I forgot to put it in this slide. I couldn't remember the name. And it's showing you who they are. So these people could have never built ships that travel the world. These people could have never built downtown buildings that you see in America. They just got out the caves. We are a different people. We have a different culture. And so the way that they eat is different. The way that they literally see reality is a different light spectrum. So this is why we must separate, because those who still stay around the parasitic people, because there's a movie called X-Files. And in the movie X-Files, the Neanderthal gets taken over by the parasite. And so that's where they were. The parasites were in that ice because clearly our ancestors were fighting a parasite. And with the pale skin not being around the sun, the parasites were easily able to get in them. And that's how parasites are able to get in us when they come around us, not just with the parasites that can jump from us and that they gave us with smallpox, but energy parasites. Education,
like I said, energy vampires, most definitely.
And that's who they are. They can only live outside of their nature by being around you. And so when we separate from them, they don't have a culture. And that's what's going to happen when enough of us wake up. And what Donald Trump as the last president, next are the robot presidents, are going to do. So basically, when we win, the majority of the planet is no longer going to trust the pale-skinned Europeans' word. And therefore, when the world finds out that we're truly the Black Indians, Moors and Moors, the builders of civilization, math, science, and reality, the majority of the women are going to go forward like they naturally do in wanting to procreate with a more African or so-called Black man. Even in Asia, they're doing it now because all these other so-called races, they know that their genetic marker is up. And how do they die off? Is when no one has sex with them. So when the truth is told about him, even the European woman will not want to procreate with the so-called pale-skinned European. And that's what she already naturally does. Naturally, every woman on the planet wants to procreate with you as an extraterrestrial, but he has to use the media, the image of Jesus being God, a white man, a pale-skinned European being God, them being Superman, all these things to destroy the image, just like they did to Shadeur. all these things with rape, all these things to demonize your ancient culture of who you are when you're in your right state of being and away from them. And so every woman will begin to look at you as an extraterrestrial, as a Martian, because Mars is M-A-R. And what is A? It's a vowel. So we do A-E-I-O-U. We can do Mars is Mer or Mer. So either way it goes, when we talk about the red planet, that is us. We are the Martians that came down and created humans. And if some of us had sex with the humans and created different races, and then some of us actually use the elements and different things to create different avatars, and we would create these different avatars to do jobs, and for the good ones we would give them a civilization, we would give them a plot of land, just like the show on HBO called The Westworld. It shows you that they give the robots a plot of land and they give them a theme. This is why when you go to Asia, or Angkor Wat, you see pyramid-like structures, you see advanced technology. Africa, America, everywhere you go on the planet, you see reminiscence of our advanced civilizations, which is a culture, which is a matrix reality. So anywhere you go on the pyramid grid under a different star system, it will create a different reality. So that's when you go and travel the planet as a Martian or a Mer. You go to this part of the matrix grid if you want to learn how to fly. You might have to study for 100 to 500 years. Let's say you want to learn to shoot fire out of your hand. Just it's the same thing. Just like when you want to learn to shoot a 3-point shot or dunk a basketball or learn 1 + 1 = 2. You know, it's the same different degrees of information that still exists that we have been distracted. And that's the real curriculum that is going to allow some of us to ascend, and that's what the 144 represents as well with Brother Shadeur. They talk about the 144,000 ascending. Who's going to ascend? Clearly, if you look at the planet, there's only a few of us who want to ascend. There's only a few of us saying logically. I'm not just saying, oh, I'm going to leave the planet. No, I'm saying logically that me as an extraterrestrial being, knowing that I've been here before, I can prove it through the education system, the mounds, the pyramids, the statues, that my bloodline has been here. And therefore, I am my father, and I'm my great-grandfather, and I'm my mother, I'm my great-grandmother, right? Therefore, that's me, just in a different avatar. We plug in at different time periods. So therefore, when you know that you've been here before, you know your culture, then you can activate who you are because everything is already around you. So you travel to Cleveland now to get that energy while it's fresh, while everyone is distracted thinking it's an effing game. No, they're playing magic. And so you either lose your consciousness and get lost in the game, or you use Shadeur Sanders' 144 draft pick to ascend as a Moor or Mer, as a Martian, to a higher level, to the mound. And so once again, as we start closing it out, and did you guys want to say anything? I know I was with that.
No.
Oh, like to add on, like 144, like I just said in this private chat here, like 144 is the 14th sequence of the Fibonacci sequence of the golden ratio. And then 144, in an angel number sense, is spiritual awakening and enlightenment.
Wow. And that's what we discussed today, right? We took it, just us three, and then of course all the spirits around us. But literally, that's how powerful these conversations are. So just like K through 12 education system, they don't say 1 through 12, they say K through 12. Do you know why that is? Because what's the number K? 11. Because K is a glyph. This is the spell. This is how you break the spell, y'all. This is a glyph, right? K.
Yeah.
But really, it's the number, but that's
11.
the glyph, right? And so when we see 11, that's a glyph, but someone made us believe that this glyph means 11. You feel me? Or 1-1. That's how you know we've been programmed, because someone has overrode, or they overrode our system of our ancient hieroglyphs, our glyphs, and now interpreted the glyphs for us. That's why
Mm.
K through 12, 11 through 12, you're not learning anything. You learn one grade, which is a new false reality. And because that doesn't exist, it only exists in your mind and in the fake world, that when the earthquakes, the tsunamis, and the spacecrafts blow up the cities, that reality is over and it doesn't exist. What exists is the pyramids, the mounds, some of these statues, the sacred geometry. That is real. That exists. That's what you're supposed to be doing every day right now. Because I'm telling y'all, they're distracting us. So when certain events occur, if you have not obtained a certain amount of information that's infinite, meaning like in the movie Indiana Jones Crystal Skulls, watch that movie. At the end, the lady with the black hair, she represents the psychic medium, that Hitler von Donovich lady, who was communicating with extraterrestrials. At the end of Indiana Jones Crystal Skull, she's like, I want to know everything. I want to know everything. And they explode her, because a pale skinned European can't even hold that much information like that. They'll explode. That's why
Oh
we are,
yeah, what's it called? Sensory overload. Like
yeah,
you keep gathering info so much to the point your mind explodes. It can't
exactly.
handle too much info.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're in these spacesuits. We, as neuromelanated carbon beings, we're condensed sunlight. And then with the hair, we're able to get the information at a faster rate than anyone else. That's what also makes us superior, is that your spacesuit. Not even, don't look at it at an egotistical standpoint. Look at it as a scientific video game standpoint. Soon you'll be able to put, like Ready Player One, soon you'll be able to put on a whole VR suit, and you'll be able to feel the punches. Like you'll literally be able to feel it when you put on the glasses. Imagine that of what you're in right now. So let's say in the other world, if you want to experience planet Earth at the highest level, you're gonna have to have a certain amount of coins to get a neuromelanated suit with certain amount of hair. You feel me? Like you make an avatar in VR world. For me, it's the same thing here. So if they distract you from who you are by destroying your culture, erasing your culture, you get lost in space and time. And if you happen to die here, you can't graduate because you don't know shit. And that's when you learn about most people don't ascend to the highest levels, because they know more about the Laker game. They know more about Jesus in the Bible and infinite information that predates all of those thoughts. Because
Exactly.
these
Like
people, go
there
ahead.
was yeah, like exactly, like there's plenty of times I want to tell them about a bunch of stuff that predates anything that comes from the Bible itself, or just anything that's besides MLB or NBA. But there's a point where they'll be like, no, I don't want to hear that. I'd rather hear about da 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 da. And I'd be like, but are you really, do you want to hear this, or do you want to stay ignorant? It's either two of those choices,
Mhm.
and you have to either constantly keep arguing with them or just be like, okay, it's whatever.
Yes. And that's the description of why only a few of us in this generation, before the next reset that they do every few hundred years, are going to ascend. because the majority of the planet has been compromised. It doesn't matter what color you are. If you dark skin, woolly hair, and you like Larry, brother Larry just said, if you're not trying to hear it, you're not going to go. Just like anything in life, you can't graduate from junior high into high school if you don't have a certain amount of information. You're not going to make the varsity team if you don't train, if you don't practice. Some people naturally can go, but you know what I mean? Same thing with the NFL, the college, same thing with a job requirement. All these things, there's requirements to get to the higher realms. And so our people think that the higher realms are getting a BMW, playing in the NFL, making $1 million. While no, none of that. Because at the end of the day, we just broke down what we need to focus on. If our ancestors were building that was for a reason. It wasn't just for play, even though we know that it's a game and it was here for fun. So that means that we're wasting our time. If our ancestors' monuments are covered up and right now none of us are able to duplicate that, something is wrong. But you'll hear a so-called black person say, well, God is good to me. Well, that's the whole point. That's how a group of small people like this are able to control you, because those monkeys work together. Those animals stick together. And they're the dog just spoke, right? You know me? Yeah. Because that's who we're dealing with. And look at the word, the island of Dr. What? Moor. We see the word Moor because it's an example of when the Moors, even the story of Yaqub on the Yucatan, right? The Yucatan, Yucatan's Peninsula, Yahweh or Yaqub's Peninsula, the big-headed scientist peninsula, the temples, right, where they were creating hybrid plants. Watch the movie Little Shop of Horrors. I'm telling you, all these things exist. Talking plants exist. That's another episode. But with the island of Dr. Moreau, it's showing you that doctors, because we're the first doctors, were genetic engineering. Moors, Martians, started creating people like the Cyclops, beings with one eye. They're beings, but these are extraterrestrial beings that we're bringing in. So we talk about two-headed beings. People say, oh, two-headed beings, Jason. Yes, type in two-headed humans right now, and I guarantee you can go to India or go to a freak show, and you'll see a person with a face right here and a face in back of their head. You can go and type in freak show. There's people born with 4 arms, 8 legs. You feel me?
Oh yeah, and then Harry Potter and Philosopher's Stone, there was that one moment where this one villain, he had there was this dude with a turban, and when he unwrapped the thing, there was another head.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's on the Harry Potter what movie?
Philosopher's Stone, the first movie.
I gotta look at it. Okay, because I love that. I love those movies when I was growing up, and I'll say it. I would cry as a kid when I would watch it, because as a kid, I would be like, man, when am I gonna get accepted into a school like that? And so when I went in Egypt, that's when I broke down, because I said, here it is. I said, that's what ancient Kemet, when you go visit Tamare and you understand that all those outside temples were actually universities, schools of thought, Tehuti, which is a priesthood, a science, a way of thinking, right? Just like algebra, you go to college, it's the same thing. So let's say you're in college, they have the school of math, the school of science, and then that hall might be dedicated to Gene Valdez, business, hall of business. It's the same thing that we did in Kemet and around the world. We would name certain scientists based off of a nature. So if there's a hawk, we're studying the hawk. And so it might be, that would be the totem of that region. And then the person who had the most knowledge of that hawk, the aerodynamics, what the hawk ate, all this information, they would revere. Because you guys got to remember, there's a movie called Dr. Dolittle with Eddie Murphy. It's showing you what we do, but they'll show you Beastmaster. They'll take you to SeaWorld. When I was in Africa in 2006, I'm at the Kruger National Park. I'm literally in South Africa at all the nature reserves, and guess what? All the animals would run when the troglodyte pale skins would come. They would run, and they would be like, they would, yeah, and they would, the American ones would be like, why do they run? And the Africans would laugh. But at night, or when they would leave, they say, brother, they run because they're afraid and they know. Like, I'm like, what? They're like, yeah. So yes, y'all, we have, so basically with the Harry Potter, we were able to go to schools to learn how to fly. Just like there's basketball camp for you to learn how to dunk. It's the same exact thing. So when you go to Las Vegas and you see people performing magic, imagine the magic that we were performing, because they're copying you. They copy you in everything. So start thinking, if they're copying you, making super human movies, that's you. If they're making movies like Superman, Hercules, or Incredible Hulk, that's you. And what is the name of Superman, y'all?
Kal-El.
That's a Moorish name, y'all.
Mm-hmm. That L part.
And so right here, as we go to the last slides, the island of Dr. Moreau, Harry and the Hendersons. So imagine Bigfoot like Yeti or like Chewbacca mixed in with a so-called human. And that's what we're dealing with. You're dealing with an intelligent ape with hair, a hairless ape. And Harry and the Henderson and Chewbacca and Bigfoot are intelligent. And so that's what we're dealing with. And that's why they're able to destroy the environment. They're able to do all this effed up stuff to the planet because they do not have a soul. Only a few of them can gain or learn about soul when we teach them about what? They'll say God. So we gave them words in religion to give them a world. And that's what words are, right? They're spells. Words are worlds. And so we gave the pale skin European an artificial world that's about to come crashing down. And those who are not studying their culture, they're going to go with it. So as we close it out, I was talking about Beastmaster. Look to the left. When you go to Africa, y'all, inside the pyramids, you're going to see brothers holding a leash, or you'll see a lion with a harness on it like a horse. Literally inside the Egyptian Commission pyramids, you will see lions with a harness on the back, like at the merry-go-round. So just like Georgia the Jungle, or what was that? Tarzan.
Tarzan, yeah.
Yeah. A pale-skinned European standing out in the jungle. Nothing is pale in the jungle. Nothing is really naturally white unless it's death or has to blend in a dead environment. We are living. And so look it to the right. Beastmaster, what's behind him? The pyramids. He has the falcon, which is Heru. He's in those pyramids behind him are American pyramids. So clearly that took place in America. The Black Panther. Come on, y'all. They're telling us in the movies who we are, and they replace it with themselves. America is the promised land. We're here. And so as we end it, it says you have to be very careful introducing the truth to the Black man who has never previously heard the truth about himself. The Black brother is so brainwashed that he may reject the truth when he first hears it. You have to drop a little bit at a time and wait a while to let that sink in before advancing to the next step. And that's why there's first grade teachers to teachers who teach in college. Me, I got to keep going. But there's brothers like you were saying, Larry and Brother Gene, to where there's people who need to be taught step by step. but some of us got to keep going. What do you guys feel about that as we start closing it up?
Exactly.
Yeah, word is
Sometimes
bond.
less is more. Sometimes less is more. They just little by little.
Yep, every step of the way.
I hear it. And so right here, y'all, as we close it out, we are the Mound Builders. And look at in the middle, you see Europeans, right? But who do you see there? See Mours and Moors picking inside a mound, y'all. Because that's
Mm.
us. We are those people. And if you look at the design, it's a mastodon pyramid. It's a step pyramid over the mound. Look in the middle of that mound and look at the steps. So once again, your mountains that you see as mounds, that mound is a pyramid in there and it goes underground. And next time we'll talk about it, but we were going to talk about the importance of financial literacy to the athletes going bankrupt and dealing with to the right. So once
Mm.
again, with financing, as we broke down, like Brother Gene said, business, learning about business, because why? Black, when you study law and history together, does anybody get that picture to the left? Do you get that, what that really means?
Hmm.
Do you get it?
Yeah, I do, but it's giving me a minute.
To the left. Gene, do
Yeah.
you get it?
No, I get it. You got, if you're dealing with the academic portion of it, everybody's smiling because you're trying to work
Oh.
No. Yes,
on.
yes, but really, no, it's black. They're black. They're the black people. They're the black people. So when you
Oh,
study
okay.
law
Yeah.
history, they're the black people. They reversed it because it's a status. Black means to lack light. Black means to lack. And they lack carbon. They lack neuromelanin. They lack
Yeah.
soul. They lack light. They're
They lack
born
them
without a soul,
vitamins.
right?
Yeah.
And then on the hairstyle, okay, I get it.
Right.
All
And
right.
so that's where the mind is. They reversed it on us. So our people are thinking that they're black, which is a color, not a nationality, not land-based or anything. Meanwhile, when they go to law school, when they go to college and join their fraternities and sororities, Sigma Pi, Zeta Phi Beta, they learn who you are. All of them, when they go to college and join the fraternities and sororities, your white friends that work with, or excuse me, your pale skin, Albion, European, Slavic friends, the majority of them know who you are and have taken an oath to make sure that they don't tell you. Because like we said earlier, the moment they take their foot off our necks, the truth is revealed. But nature prevails. So I know everybody's got to go. I know this is the 2-hour mark. But to end it, I was showing everybody the Malibu structures off of the coast. And they recently just took these structures off of Google Earth. And I just wanted to question, why would they take these off of Google Earth? Because once again, it's reminiscence of an advanced civilization that predates their fake false reality. And so when the tides come and all this stuff changes, it's going to change the story of reality. And once again, Malibu, Mali. Once again, we see Moorish names, African names, Egyptian names, all throughout the Americas. Mali is in California, y'all. Mali, California. Once again. So here you find the cave paintings around Baja, off the coast of Mali. And right here it says Mali, y'all, so you guys know I'm not lying. Top left-hand corner, Malibu detectives find these ancient glyphs. So right here to the bottom left, you see sacred geometry. You see all that. So all that's high level information that people think is doodling, but in all reality, it's talking about us being star beings, a way to go home. There's a way to go home, y'all. There's a way to get off of this planet. There's a way to not have to deal with what this troglodyte is about to do and doing. I'm telling y'all. And by together having these conversations, we can figure it out before it's too late. So these are the Indians of Malibu. They're called the Chumash. And look how his color changed. Doesn't he look like he has an afro to the left, darker?
Yep.
And then it shows you that they whitewashed them because the original Native Americans are dark. And then the question will go, well, where did they get their dark skin from? Oh, us. They are new here. And so they took on our headdresses that look like fezzes. Really, they're copying our afros. And so here's another Malibu Indian right here. You guys can look up the Indians of Malibu and the Indians of California right here. And we were talking about black cowboys of Compton, California, because look to the left, you see another Indian. He's different. These are the original. And always remember, we can grow afros, and with certain chemicals, our hair can go straight. And remember, the land was different with all the plants and trees that the lumberjacks shut down, the vegetation, so our skin did look different. And also, they dropped a nuclear bomb on this planet recently that rusted our skin. And so this is how the Chumash Native Americans look today, y'all. Like you were saying, werewolves, that's us to the right. But to the left, you see the Siberians mixed in with Europeans. And so once again, those are not mound builders. They lived in teepees. The Native Americans didn't build the pyramids because they didn't build in. They're not the original Masons. They're not the original stone builders who were breaking down the Fibonacci sequence or attempting to, because that's what the square and compass represents, is the Fibonacci sequence. That even with the square and compass, it's still not perfect. Like the Fibonacci sequence is trying to show you, the perfect spiral can still not be done with the square and compass, which for me shows proof that there is a higher intelligence that we can tap into, that we are. And that lets us, that's what is a celebration, is like you said, Brother Larry, the Fibonacci sequence, the 144, that's the way home. Decoding the pi, the PI. The pi is the pineal gland, right? And what is the pineal gland? 3.14, and you find the number 44 in the number pi, right?
Yep.
Because that's the symbol of how you can get up out of this matrix hologram without suicide, without dying, or you can live for thousands, millions of years. Death is just a gene. And they'll tell you that there's scientists that found the death gene. So that means that there's plants that you can eat and herbs that you can eat to live hundreds of years or not die. And that's what the temples all around the world were. They were also sound healing machines that would kill parasites, vibrate and heal you, so you could go on and live another 100, 400 years without being
like them people up in Tibet. They be using them bells, them what's it called? Them sound baths, and what's the name? Them tuning forks. Those are also vibrations that could help us meditate.
Exactly. And they took out the bells once again in the churches, which were our cathedrals for healing. So basically, when you guys used to remember the old churches with bells, those were already there. Those were already in there. And we would go to what you call the churches to hear what they call the word of God, not from the man, but sound. Sound healing. The word from the highest frequency would be sound, right? Striking it. And then we had machines that could somatic, and just like the Japanese scientists, they can freeze light, they can freeze snowflakes, they can freeze water and see the geometric shapes, like how when you can say love to water, it changes geometric shapes. We could record that. And so we were able to build machines that, like I said, could make contact with higher extraterrestrial beings. And those are the civilizations which we come from. And that's still in our DNA. That information that we learned a few past lives ago, it's still in you. And that's how we unlock it, is through the sound healing, through chants, through going to the mounds, by going to these ancient monuments that you built, because it has a secret code that speaks to you. The way we set up the geometry speaks to your DNA. It activates it. Just like when people go to Disneyland and they get happy and say it's the most magical place on earth, the most magical, happiest places on earth for you are the mounds, the pyramids.
Most definitely. Because every time I go to the National Indian Mouth where I'm at, I always feel happy. Like it's sense of connection.
Hopi happy, the Hopi happy, right? H-E-I-O-U. Hopi comes from happy. And then the poppy happy, because when you're eating plants and you're eating psychedelics, fungus, community, you're having fun. And this is what you see. We were painting ourselves, all this stuff. Look at us. That's fun. So we were living in paradise here in California, cities of gold next to the water, abundance of fish, abundance of fruits, vegetables, farms, all these different realities that you could experience right here on this land. This is why they want to strip it from us. So that's it, y'all. That's
all right.
End
Hey, thank you. Thank you. That was great. Learned a lot. Hey, nice meeting you. And hey,
give us something, close it out. Give us something to farewell, how they can meet you, and a solution, and end it with your reservation talk, please.
Hey, I'm in where the Inland Empire started, before Riverside County, before any city. 1853, Agomanda currently is now South Colton. I run the South Colton Diversity Committee. We're focused on Black Native Americans, the recognized, the unrecognized, and I have a reservation at 165 East O Street. It's actually a whole city block, commercial and residential property, and I'm bringing to light everything. I want to let us know, we started Indian gaming. We're the largest group in California, but we're so separated that it's gotten to the point where it's just about the knowledge. It really starts with the education. So I'm here. Jason has all my info, and we're looking to do monthly events where we can actually get some entertainment, food, and we can all powwow about all of this in an entertaining way. It's called The Crossings in Colton on Instagram.
Thank you, brother, for coming on. Right. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Always, brother. And Larry, anything to close it out?
Not much, but this is an excellent build. Learned a lot. And congrats, Gene, for your company.
Thank
you. And thank you, Jason, for giving and sharing all this knowledge.
And thank you guys for coming on and building with me. Nothing without you. Teamwork. So once again, I'm Jason Elm Street Williams. Peace to brother Gene Valdez, my brother Larry Davis on the ones and twos as well. Knowledge is power when applied correctly. Jason Elm Street Williams, July, August, September, October, November. Return of the Moors, Return of the Moors, Return of the Black Indians. Let's go. We got the best.
represented, fuck the critics, ain't nobody hard as gritty. Black and brown come together, we ain't backing down. I've been in the holy city, got the bloodline of a king, gotta come together, we all in the same game. One God, one universe, all unity, and ain't shit changed. Gotta mount up, but they dumb us down with that fake shit that they teach us now. We been living in the belly of the devil, battling so we can make it out. Fuck the politics and the president, fuck the White House till they let us in. We gon' go to war, we ain't hesitant. If they want to smoke, then I'm a hella shit. We the last living of a dying breed. Ain't nobody with the pen as hard as me. Every time I rap it hit an artery. Ain't nobody fucking with my artistry. We the holy guys, we invented time. We gon' send a missile like it's Lebanon. I been eating rappers like it's dinner time. Suckers hibernating like it's dinner time.
Smoke on the West Coast. What goes? Beautiful women on the